All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome back. Happy Tuesday. Brandon, appreciate that, man. Thanks for joining the Coffee Fund. How's it going, everyone? Morning, morning, morning. All right. We'll wait a few minutes for everyone to jump in. Morning, guys. Happy Tuesday. NVIDIA, yeah, that was a wild day for NVIDIA yesterday. Everywhere, up, down, left, right. It was good, it was bad, then it was good again, it was bad again, it was good again. Tough one. Morning, everyone. All right. So, yesterday was a tough day for me. Got beat up on the swing trades pretty badly. Intraday trades had reason. Got a little bit too aggressive on that NASDAQ supply above. That definitely was the reason for the loss. And then just, missed out on the downside move. So, yeah, just not a good day. Day to forget. Day to, just come back into today and scale it back down. Be disciplined. No interest in making the loss back in a single day. Those type of thoughts have to be focused on today. One of the most dangerous things to do is to try to make back losses in a market that isn't providing much volatility or much trend. So very cautious to try to make back those losses today, especially with FOMC tomorrow, with the expectation of possibly more chop and more sideways action inside this larger consolidation. So yeah, I mean, it's probably not going to be until we get the next move that I'm able to get an opportunity to really juice back those losses. So today is just sort of a day of, if something shows up I like, take it with a shot. Nothing big, just survive this consolidation period. It's what I'm going to continue to do. Bigger picture trade ideas are still looking great. The Leap portfolio is fantastic, up over 5 figures now on that portfolio. So that one's doing well, but the intraday trading has been a little bit choppy. It's been a little bit volatile. I'm up, I'm back down, I'm back up. So just haven't really gotten a good momentum on that portfolio on the short-term swings or the short-term trades. So yeah, that was that. That was my day. You know, tough one. It happens. It's got to keep going. Got to keep chugging. So we'll talk about what happened yesterday. We'll talk about some things to watch today, the levels to keep an eye out for, and then of course the economic data that we got to keep an eye out. So today, 10 o'clock jolts, and then tomorrow FOMC. So we have 10 o'clock data today. We have FOMC tomorrow. And so today's one of those days where I think it's probably right to wait that first 30. Wait that first 30, let that jolts data come out, and then see if something sparks and something really sets up from that. So that's my read for now in terms of the economic data. Let's go over to the charts. So we have some NTZs in effect today for me, absolutely. And I will sort of talk you through that. So if we go to let's first zoom out on the hourly chart, and we can see yesterday was a very good rejection of 25.9, right? 25.850, 25.9 supply, fantastic, as it should have done. So, you know, my reasoning to be long, which I'll, talk to you guys about quickly, was a long off of 184.50 on NVIDIA, which has been the level that, I've been looking for longs on NVIDIA for a very long time. And you can see, it actually was a beautiful setup, right? I mean, an awesome setup. Obviously, it failed because of the NASDAQ, so we can do a little bit of a trade recap here for you guys real quick. I longed NVIDIA yesterday right here on these holds of the daily 20 and the 184.50 level, which is just fantastic spot, right? Lows, daily 20. This was also VWAP at the time. So I had a lot of reasons to look for that long at that 184.50. But what ultimately failed this was the fact that the NASDAQ rejected supply. So, that was a tough one. I took my shot on an NVIDIA setup that looked relatively good, but that NASDAQ rejection, it just was not having it. So could I have done better to focus on that NASDAQ supply? Yes, absolutely. That could have, stopped me from taking that trade on NVIDIA. Absolutely. But man, what a very important spot. And you can even see later in the day, and into close yesterday, we basically just normalized right back to that same level that I longed off of. And look at the push that happened in the after hours. And then even this morning, look at the hold of that level. So, when I look at this chart, and there's something to, what I like to do is, did I take a trade off a good level? Was that the level? Was that the inflection point that needed to hold? If that answer is yes, I'm really not that upset about my trade. And so I can clearly see that yesterday, the level and inflection point for NVIDIA is absolutely this 184.50 spot. You can see it here, you can see it here, you can see it here, and you can see it here. So I took a trade off a good spot. Did it go my favor? It did not. But I was trading off major levels. And so, I'm always going to take that shot, and that's how I failed yesterday. That's really it. Besides that, I took a little SPX attempt and failed again, and that wrapped it up, called it a day. So that's that. Anyways, that was my day. NASDAQ futures today, full effect NTZ here between the Thursday high and PDL. So we got this Thursday high and this rejection right here at 25,732. We got this previous day low at 25,564, which also lined up with our Friday pre-market low here which I'll actually go ahead and just put on the charts again. So I'll go ahead and pop that on, and you can see exactly how close yesterday's lows came to that level. So right here is your Friday pre-market low, let's just call it Friday low. Friday low, and we can see that that previous day low and Friday low came pretty damn close to each other, and that's where we held yesterday. So this for me is a complete no trade zone. I will not trade if we're inside that zone unless there is a specific setup I like, and there is one out there today that is very interesting for the bigger picture, so I am considering setting that up, and we'll get into that in just a second. But in terms of the short-term scalps on the NASDAQ futures, I'm going to assume it's going to be very difficult within this zone today. You have previous day low and these Friday lows, you have these Thursday's highs, and you have this rejection here from the overnight. And so between this zone right here, I would be very careful of some consolidation, some chop, and just more of the same, really. More of the same, right? More of just this, which is really just complete sideways channeling action. So got to be, continue to be a little bit more cautious. Got to be a little bit more patient inside of this price action. Got to understand that there will be a move soon. There will be an expansion coming at some future point. And that's really where I want to be aggressive. For now, as hard as it is to not do anything, it possibly continues to be the right call. There are individual setups on an individual or on a daily basis that are interesting. So it would be nice to try to catch those that really do spark, because there were a few yesterday, and probably will be a few today. But it is harder for sure when it's not a broad market move, right? When it's a broad market move in a single direction, everything sort of flowing, that's when it gets a lot easier. So very stock specific as the market trades sideways. That's my NTZ today. Very clear supply above at 25,850, 25,9. Very clear demand below at 25,4. You are channeling inside of a channel, right? You are sideways inside of sideways. Here's your major channel. Now here's your smaller channels, and you're just getting tighter and tighter and tighter until hopefully some type of a catalyst, which hopefully is tomorrow, all right? FOMC, I would love to see this thing do something for us outside of this range. So that's that. S&P 500, it's the exact same thing. We're just sitting on these inflection points, sitting on these just key levels that, we're just basically right back to the center point of this channel. We expanded to the top, and we got right back to the center, right? So we just keep regressing right back to the center point of this channel, which is basically 6,900 to 6,812, 6,800. It's basically a 100-point channel on the ES, and the market just keeps wanting to come back to the center point of it. And that's exactly what we did yesterday. We got towards the top of the channel, we regressed to the middle, and closed the day right at the middle. And so here we are again today. We are going to open right at the middle. So tough to really guess which direction this is going to go, because truly at this point it is somewhat of a guess. Which direction are we going to go back to these highs first, or are we going to go back to these lows first? The only thing I would say could give you some insight today is what happens at the 68.64 again. That was our key inflection point, and you can see this morning it is slightly failing, right? Look at right here, 68.64. That was, level that continues to fail here. And even yesterday, our inflection point level, spot on. I mean, just beautiful stuff. Yesterday is a good example of levels were solid, but executions were not, right? And that's just, it is what it is. These levels and what I analyze on a daily basis, again, very solid, perfect rejections right here, even midday at our 68.64. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to execute upon those. That's the hard part, right? At the end of the day. So right there, 68.64, that's the key level, right? That's your inflection point. Sitting right in the middle of it, man. Sitting right in the middle of it. Bam, bam. Here you are again, right in the center. Can we get a little fade off this today, right? Can we get a lower high? Can we get a little rejection of these highs again? That could be nice. Just be cautious as you trade into the Thursday low and the previous day low, right? I would say under this previous day low, that could be where things could get a little bit more interesting. Would be under PDL. actually, exact PDL is 6835.25. I'm going to put that on there. So maybe on a break and retest under PDL today, that could get more interesting right here, right? If we get a little failure below these double bottom lows, maybe a little fade into 6812, that could be quite nice. You could look to set up that fade off the inflection point at 6864 if you want to look for the fade into that low. If you reclaim this level today, I would assume there could be a pop back to 6880 or even 6900. So it's basically all based on what happens off this level today for me, right? That's the same thing on the NASDAQ futures. Do we reclaim this 25,670 or do we fail below it again? Do we fail it? Do we reclaim it? That's really what I'm just sort of monitoring on an intraday basis. Definitely the NASDAQ and ES margin. Individual stocks will still interest me, but I will have to get some kind of confirmation or some kind of short-term confirmation that the market is going relatively in my direction for that moment in time, right? Like if the NASDAQ is in the NTZ, but it is creating higher lows and the price action does look strong, and then I see an individual equity that looks like a nice long, then I'll consider it, right? You know, if that individual equity looks really good and the NASDAQ's just like maybe flat to lower, then I would be like, maybe I stay away from this one. But if the market is in my direction relatively inside that NTZ, I will take my attempt. But then at the same time, I will have to understand why I lost if it's just another lack of continuation and sideways movement, right? So that's really up to you to decide if, you know, you want to take that risk. SPY. So SPY is sitting right on our 684. I mean, it's just exactly at our 684. This was our level yesterday that we talked about, 684. That was the key inflection point from these highs, these lows. And you can see yesterday, we basically just traded right back to that level. We're just sitting right on it. We're sitting right above these Friday lows right here. This is previous day close. It's Friday's lows, and it's the 684. I mean, this is very important spot, and I don't even know what the hell you're doing off of it right now. You're just sitting on it. You're just sitting there. So, you know, I want to say that this is a nice hold level, but at the same time, I'm just not seeing the life in this market to really get too trustworthy on that. But that is a pullback to these highs. You're sitting right at these lows. You're sitting right at the 684 again. I would be aware that that could absolutely hold and, you know, push back higher. I'd say the Thursday highs right here, 685.78, to these Thursday lows and these previous day lows at 681, right, is a little bit of that NTZ that I'd be careful of today inside of that range. If you break under PDL and Thursday lows, I'd say you're trading back to the 680, 678 zone. If you hold this 684, probably trading back up into that Thursday high. But again, you are just deadlock center of this consolidation on the SPY. QQQ, exact same deadlock center, just complete center of this consolidation. I have my NTZ between the Friday low. Actually, I'm going to move this to the previous day low, actually. Previous day low, 621.69. Let me move this, 621.69. I'm going to go ahead and mark that at PDL, right, because I really don't want to short into PDL today. And I also don't want to long into this Thursday high, which is right around this 625.50 spot. You can see that that was the rejection here. Here's your low a day, which is also that Friday low. Here's the low. And this area right here is where I'd anticipate some pretty difficult price action. You are rejecting the 624 level, at least for the exact moment. But, man, I don't trust that because you already seen what happened here. So very choppy, very difficult, I would say, within this zone today, right in here. Anywhere between the previous day low and this rejection high from the overnight session. So you are basically completely center point of that range, right? So you're sitting at the 50% of this range. So that's 50% of the range of 50% of the range, right? So you're 50% of that range and 50% of the larger range. So yeah, tough, man. Tough, tough, tough. Hard to really build a good thesis here. You know, if I'm not feeling too confident on the direction today, it's probably going to be a pretty slow day for me. there's really a few individual setups that I like, and I'm just going to monitor those and see how they look, and just sort of lay low, right? We have jobs data at 10 o'clock. We have FOMC tomorrow. So a little bit of a lay low, I think, is the right call for me at least, especially after a little bit of a poor day yesterday. Just sort of relax and build back slowly. So definitely not pushing, right? After a loss yesterday, trying to push it inside of this is really dangerous. That is basically just going to double up your losses, in my opinion. Really dangerous to try to make back losses in a market that you are not fully understanding of the next price or the next movement. I still think the bigger picture thesis is absolutely correct. There's nothing that broke yesterday in terms of the bigger picture, right? So ES still absolutely over the major demand at 68.12, right? NASDAQ still absolutely over our 25.4. So for sure, we're still looking bullish in the larger picture, but that does not mean that there is a bullish move on the intraday today. And with the current price action looking like this, you know, I want to trust the bigger picture, but the bigger picture trade, you have to tailor your trades towards that. If that's going to be your thesis, then you're not trading 0 DTEs or short-term contracts with that thesis. You know, you got to think this is sort of the, if you think about the sort of macro versus micro, macro is good, but micro is completely sideways, right? So you got to sort of base your decisions off that. I like the bigger picture upside, but I know that short term we have been very sideways. And so I'm a little bit hands off on the short term stuff. So that's that. SMH looks just fine even after yesterday's downside. The SMH really did not budge at all. It actually squeezed to end the day because of NVIDIA, obviously. So semis still look very good. Got nothing wrong with them. They're sitting at all-time highs, so absolutely it will slow down up here, and there will be a little bit of a rejection. But yeah, I mean, nothing that panics me about yesterday. No major drips on semis, right? Semis actually outperformed the entire day. So yeah, I'm not too concerned about the drop yesterday. Just have to make sure we're positioned correctly, really, right? And be able to withstand some, you know, short-term pullbacks. Really, that's the goal right now. 360. 364.50, semis look just fine to me. What I'm really waiting on is this IBIT, man. That's really what I'm waiting on, because I think a lot of opportunities will come from a Bitcoin push again. And I think it's still sort of building here, trying to wait for this to eventually spark. But IBIT building a nice flag, holding these previous lows right here, these highs right here, and look at the lows that are developing again around this 50, 51 area. And we just need that spark, right? We just need that spark on Bitcoin to get this thing going again. Over 53, I think this can really run and continue. And if we go over to the Bitcoin daily chart, you really are sitting at a beautiful, beautiful spot. So hopefully this can start going soon. We need the markets to find another risk-on catalyst, which is really what we're lacking right now. We're just not we're lacking a catalyst. But you have a major daily high here, you have major daily lows here, and here we are again, right? Just sitting here. So it's a very similar period to this, where you came back into the level and you consolidated for quite some time. I mean, this was about a month of consolidation before the spark came in, right? So here we are again. It's been going on like 2 to 3 weeks. So are we eventually going to get that spark again? And will this create another opportunity just like this one? That's what I'm looking for, right? That's what I'm looking for. So let's keep watching that. Let's keep eyes on Bitcoin. Once that sparks and some risk on comes in again, there's going to be some opportunities. Okay. Okay. What else do I want to look at? Gold, still building a nice flag on gold. If you guys are interested in gold, why is this not loading? Uh-oh. Yeah, we're good. Everything looks all right. Gold, hello. Okay. All right. Well, TOS is going to take a second here. So press the like button as we wait for TOS to figure it out. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. We're not dropping frames, so there we go. All right. Good job, TOS. Okay, so let's go over to GC. And you can see right here, still building that flag. Still building that flag. Still very interesting. Does gold get another push here soon? I mean, nice holds above the 4,200. Nice little 4-hour flag building. Nice consolidation period for the next leg. Something I would be watching. Something I'm going to keep an eye out for in the coming days. Gold GLD as well. You can see right here, GLD, if you want to trade it on the option side. You have a nice little daily 20 here. That's sort of uptrending into price. You got, geez, you flashbang. That one got me too. Nice little flagging move. Daily 20 sort of uptrending into price. This is an interesting move. I would definitely keep eyes on this. GLD, probably a move that is coming into FOMC. FOMC is possibly the catalyst for this move. So yeah, that would be something I'm watching. And you can see right now we are rejecting the inflection points. QQQ, rejecting SPY. What's the SPY doing? Rejecting 684. And ES rejecting 68. This one's the clearest for me. 68.64 is failing. And there's two downside trades that I like today. And if we get something clear to the downside, I like these two trades. So let's go ahead and talk about those now. It's not Tesla, but we'll talk about Tesla. I actually don't mind Tesla downside if we break this level. But yesterday, this one hurts a little bit. I don't think we could have called this put option downside trade any better. And I just failed to trust it for whatever reason I couldn't explain. Probably because the market, oh, actually, I do know why. So Tesla was looking like a great downside trade, but at the same time, the ES was coming down into my major demand zone, which was right here, right? So ES was down into demand. We saw a strong bounce off this demand right around 1026 to 1035. And so I saw that bounce coming in off demand, and I said, all right, I just don't want to short Tesla into that demand zone. Now, what ended up happening is Tesla didn't care about that, right? So Tesla was right around here during that demand bounce, and it was below our 445 supply, and it just did not quite care about that ES bounce. And then the ES bounce was a dead cat bounce anyway. Now, here's the thing, guys, and people love to rag in hindsight, and say, oh, why didn't you take it? Why didn't you take it? Well, in hindsight, it's easy to say, yeah, that demand didn't hold, but when you're looking at the charts like this, at least for me, I definitely could have foreseen the market holding this demand and squeezing back higher, right, in the macro trend that we're in. And if I would have shorted Tesla at those lows and it sort of caught steam with the market, that would have been a pretty ugly way to lose again on the day. So I just stayed away from it. I decided to be a little bit more patient and a little bit more hands-off, but hey, it ended up being perfect, man. 445 supply. That was our key level to break, and man, all day downside. Beautiful. So, yeah, it is what it is. It was a nice read. It was a nice call out, and I just didn't take it, but hopefully you guys did. I saw Piff, you did. Well, way to go, man. And I'm sure some other of you guys took that trade as well. But beautiful, fail under 445, nice low volume area, straight down, right? No good deed goes unpunished. Straight up, straight down. Perfect, man. Absolutely perfect. Can't ask for a better setup than that yesterday, and it actually played out pretty much to perfection. So really nice there. But now, here's something I will say, right? This was the pullback that we wanted for a new long opportunity. So I am definitely intrigued by that today, right? I am. We have major previous triple top highs. We have the daily 50 SMA. We have a pullback that came in, from this straight up move. We retraced that straight up action, which is exactly what you needed. And now, if Tesla starts to build something off 435 today, 434, there's absolutely a real reason to look for this to push back higher again. So I am definitely intrigued by that off the 434 and the daily 50. That is absolutely something that I will be watching today. Underneath 434, if you do fail underneath these triple top highs and the market is sort of getting spanked today, then you're going to see Tesla back to this 422 and back to the daily 20. So you got another nice spot to short if the market does prove to us that it wants to go lower. But this is equally as interesting as a pullback long. So just keep an eye on that 434 and that daily 50. NVIDIA is technically finally holding above the key level that has to be held. So this really could be a nice, next few weeks for NVIDIA. It really could, if it can stay true. NVIDIA 184.50 and the daily 20, you can see reclaimed yesterday. This is the major highs that continue to reject, and you can see today, this is where you are trying to hold. So if NVIDIA can hold this level, you are now holding above that weekly high that I have talked about pretty much every day right here, and saying that I need to see a hold above it before I long NVIDIA. And you are possibly getting that. You can see here on the daily chart, it's actually could be a beautiful long off the daily 100. So let me look at the daily chart here, right? Daily 100 pullbacks. We've seen that become opportunity before, right? And you can see NVIDIA, look at the last few days, starting to grind right off that daily 100. So pretty interesting. We got to see if it can battle today. If NVIDIA just decides to fall over like a dog and just be limp, for a lack of a better words, if NVIDIA just goes limp again today, then this is all just BS. And if it fails back under this level, then it's just total BS. And I would not be shocked by that. So just be on the lookout for that. This thing has to hold strong. If this thing goes limp again under this level, be careful. Because that news yesterday could just be a little bit of a sell the news type of move. So just be aware of that. Watch that level. Make sure it holds today. AMD, big inflection point, again failing. This is the must break level for AMD. It's very clear that an opportunity will arise over this level, but we just can't get above it. 226, daily 20, daily 50, previous highs here. This thing just cannot get above this spot. Every time it even sniffs it, it gets failed. So, yeah, I mean, that thing has to break. Without that break, it is a no touch for me. You have major previous lows here, major highs, and look at these failures again. If you can get over that level, this thing is going to squeeze. It's going to squeeze quickly into this 234 level, but it needs to get over it. It has not been able to. TSM had a nice little day yesterday. We pretty much did what we expected, traded from the 293 up towards the 300, 308 area. At this point, not really interested anymore. That was a nice setup there. Broadcom, beautiful. Just the leaps are still going beautifully. Nice holds yesterday, nice consolidations. Really not giving back much of anything yesterday, even through the downside on the market. So still proving to me that it's a relatively strong name. 400 would be a great hold. Pullbacks to 393, still a great spot. Even pullbacks to that 385. These are all great spots. Pullback longs, pullback longs, pullback longs. Watching these three levels. Okay. ASML just sort of sitting at this 1100 spot, still building this little 4-hour setup over this 1100, 1080 right in here. Still building. So waiting, but for now a little bit dormant. All right, let's go into the two downside setups that I like. Actually, let's go into the one upside setup I like today. This is my upside setup of the day. It's Apple. We've been talking about Apple back down to that daily 20. We've been talking about Apple back down to these previous highs in this consolidation. We have a nice break and retest back to the daily 20. And we even have some outperformance this morning. So everything's sort of setting up beautifully for this to be an idea. Definitely interested in this one today. It all lines up. Right? And this has been the hard part about the market is everything lines up and then the market just is limp and it goes nowhere. And so this lines up absolutely beautifully for me, right? Everything that I know, previous double top highs into lows, you break out, you retrace, you start to come back off the same exact level, you're having outperformance, you got the daily 20 below. So, I mean, just everything makes sense to me. And so I am never upset losing on these trades, right? I'm not, and it is what it is, right? I mean, that's trading. If I take a long on Apple and this thing does this, take my money, man. That's it. I mean, that's what else can I do? What else? There's no other way to trade without taking these risks. So when something lines up and it makes sense, something like this on Apple today, definitely looking for it and definitely would get intrigued. So gonna watch this high here. Over here at this, what is this, 280.40. Make sure I'm watching some previous highs just to make sure I'm not getting smacked around at any of these highs. Yeah, this 280 is probably going to get a little heavy, so be aware of that. big 280 spot there. Above that, maybe up into these lows at 282. That was a big spot as well. So 280, 282 could be some targets, but would love to try to get a nice entry down in this 275, 277 zone. Right now, it looks like the market is sort of failing. Yeah, we're getting a pretty decent fail of that 25,670 level still. So, yeah, this, Apple, this is going to be tough now, right? It's going to be tough. Do we want to trust that Apple trade with the NASDAQ and ES getting smoked off this inflection point, right? That's going to be that's the hard part today. So you have to say, hey, I love the Apple setup, but, the NASDAQ's under that key level. ES is failing 68.64. So I'm not sure I love that. That would be something to consider, right? Something to be a little bit careful of. Let me turn this red. It's right here. This does have to be now turned red because that is now a very clear failure point on the day here. So right there. All right, you are failing back under this Tuesday high. This really could sort of drip this lower today. So now with seeing that, here's some downside setups I like today. Number one is Meta. I like the Meta long term, but I like the short term downside, right? I like the long term upside, but I don't mind the short term downside. And that reason for that is you have a gap up right here from that news up above 660, right? So under 660, you got yourself nothing until 648. And that is a valley of price action right there. So what I would be looking for is if Meta fails under 660 today, I could get a nice fade move into 648. That looks good. And I would love to see that happen if we get some market downside today. That looks really good. Nice job, Rob. You took some Tesla puts. Way to go, man. Congratulations. That's all I can ask for, right? Hopefully these setups are helping some of you guys take some trades. 660, 648.50, gap fill. I would be watching that on Meta today. And then the other one is Google, because Google's starting to lose a little bit of the allure from that NVIDIA news, right? That they're going to beat out NVIDIA on those chips. Starting to wear off a little bit, and I think maybe time to get a little bit of a drip here. Google is now failing underneath these lows that needed to hold for me. Now they're turning into rejections, and that is a clear reason to think that this could flip lower. 314, 315.60, absolutely the level to watch here. Below this level, we have a gap to fill, guys. So under 309.40, you can see right here, you have a gap to fill technically to 300, but there are some wicks here at 304, and that's also the daily 20. So I don't mind taking Google from possibly this 314, 315 supply, or possibly either under PDL, or you could even look at this and say, if we can get under 309.40, I would look to take this to 304 on the gap fill. So either way, Google looks like a nice downside setup today. I would be watching this. If the markets continue to stay weak, I like this Google rejection. Definitely keep an eye on that. Okay. Man, that Zoom dark horse is still sort of pumping, huh? It's almost getting to our level. It basically is at our level. We've been talking about this Zoom dark horse. So if you remember this Zoom setup, there's a gap to fill here. There's a gap to fill over this 89.67. And you've been in this consolidation on Zoom for 5 years now? 3 years? It's crazy. So long-term consolidation and accumulation, 3 years long. Could Zoom find something? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see Zoom find something, but let's see, 89.67. Let's see if we can get above that level. Circle, going to need some Bitcoin strength if it's going to get going, but I like the pullback yesterday. It makes sense to me why it pulled back. It did come back into a major level, but definitely volatile with crypto, so a little bit careful there. But nice pullback into these previous highs. If I zoom out, you can see right here, still structuring correctly for me. I still see the structure. I'm not going to shy away from this structure. You can see these lows, you can see these highs, you can see these lows. So still very good to me. Here's structure one, here's your next structure. As long as it continues to hold here and this 81 and this daily 20 spot, I like it, and I'm going to stay true to it. So that's something I like. CRWV is another one I like. Actually, look, it's actually gotten a little bit of a pop this morning. I didn't even realize. But CRWV, another one I like. CRWV pulled back yesterday. Let me show you where this pulled back to. So CRWV pulled back to these highs, right? Pulled back to these highs here. And you can see holding that daily 20 right at that $80 spot. Good pullback, right? Gave back this straight up, pull back into that spot, and sort of found that strength once again. The other thing that I continue to watch here on CRWV is this daily chart and these daily lows right here, which it is now back above. So CRWV back above the 84.40 to 85.26, which are these major daily lows from back in August. So daily low, and we can see we are holding that zone again. We held that zone on Friday, which made me take this trade. And then, of course, I got bamboozled by the news that came out yesterday. So that sucked, but I'm going to keep trying to trust this level. You can see, again, it's holding tight. I don't want to miss this, and I don't want to let impatience and short-term expiration get me out of this trade, right? So I sort of reposition myself in this idea with much more time and allowing this to trade out, because I see this setup working out, but I know that it's going to be very difficult with short-term expiration. And so I want to get out of that game of worrying about what it does on a day-by-day basis. I want to know what it's doing on a week-by-week basis. That's sort of where my mind wants to be on that setup. Not, oh my God, it's down 1% on this day and my contracts are screwed, right? I need it to be, okay, good week. It stayed sideways. Another week of consolidation. Let's move on to next week and see what it does, right? That's sort of the mindset I want on this. ASTS, another setup that's sort of holding up here at this 72 spot. I would keep an eye on this 72 spot. Definitely a big one. Microsoft, a great day for the leaps yesterday. Great day for the leaps. Very happy with this. Leap portfolio doing very well because of these leaps. Broadcom, Meta, and Microsoft have really been great lately off our purchases. 485, great squeeze on Microsoft. Would love to see it get over 495. That would be great. 495, that would be a nice flip here. But I would look for the pullback long at 485 today for sure. Microsoft, great outperformance yesterday, like all day straight up. Not really any drips with the market. Is today the first day for Walmart on the NASDAQ? Really? I didn't even know that. Walmart's on the NASDAQ now? I must have missed that news. I love this pullback on Walmart, by the way, Chef. You can see I actually have this alert. 109, 110. This could be a great retest. So that's something I would be watching. Carvana. If it can hold above these highs, it could get interesting again, but I don't know. I'm going to be very careful before I get involved in Carvana, but I would watch these highs. 438, 442. This is definitely a key spot, right? So this consolidation, these highs from yesterday, 438, 442. See if that pullback here today is actually an opportunity. Something to watch to see if Carvana can bounce out of this zone. Oracle, yeah, Oracle just sort of failed to move yesterday. It just didn't do it. It's holding again at this key spot, so it could, be something to monitor, but you do have earnings tomorrow now, which it's getting a little bit close now. But yeah, Oracle, 218.79, same as yesterday, same thesis, but you can see these upside rejection levels are absolutely there. Earnings tomorrow, a little bit careful. WDC, this has been a great dip buy for me, but yeah, it looks like it's failing this spot a little bit. I wanted to see it hold this 167.50 spot. Doesn't look like it's going to do it. You can see highs, highs, highs. Sort of failing it. So, all right, so top watches of the day, very clearly. There's only a few that I'm watching today. Number one is Apple, 100%. That's a key watch. Looks fantastic. 4-hour chart looks great off the daily 20. Daily 20 has been a great spot for Apple. We've gotten a few traps below the daily 20, so a little bit careful of that happening, but that daily chart right off the daily 20 looks great. I like that. Definitely watching. And then if we just get sort of smacked on the market today and we go down again, I'm definitely keeping eyes on Google for that downside move and that gap fill, and then, of course, Meta for that gap fill under 660. Those are really my top watches of the day. Hood do anything yesterday? Yeah. It held. It held. What did Palantir do yesterday? Palantir just sort of sitting here. Yeah, failing the 181 now, so that could lead to a little bit of a drip lower. It's like, it's just center locked, isn't it? It really is just center locked in this channel. Look at this. So, yeah, it's a little bit tough for me. What else? Netflix has been just really dead lately. So trying to, keep a little bit of an eye on this, but too early to get any kind of aggressive longs. I'm keeping eyes because I know this is going to turn into an opportunity at some point. But right now, just getting, really beat down. This 94.18 spot, that weekly high over here, possibly interesting. But right now, just sort of, you don't really want to get in front of a train like this. I mean, this thing just looks like it's just not good. All right, that's really it. Amazon, I can actually look at Amazon. Amazon is rejecting now. This could be another downside watch today, guys. I don't mind this as another downside watch. The reason I say that is because Amazon rejecting now these highs and rejecting the daily 100. So that actually could now be a downside look as well. This one does look relatively weak today. So downside move on markets, this is not bad either. Look at this little failure. Look at that rejection of 228. That looks like it could be in free fall here. Let me take a look at the daily chart, actually. The next daily low is down at 223.80. So that looks like a little bit of a dangerous spot there for Amazon. Yeah, if you do not reclaim this 228 today and this 100 SMA, I'd say 223, 224 is possible. But you're going to need a market downside for sure. RGTI, yeah, it's in the pullback, but it just can't, it's just stuck. And I would be careful on RGTI if the market is not going higher, which clearly right now, that NASDAQ is staying under the inflection point. But man, oh man, could that be so pointless to the bigger picture, right? Like if we just drip down into these lows from yesterday and then rip back higher, right? That's the problem with this zone, guys. This downside looks convincing, but you're into the yesterday's lows, you're into the Friday lows. Be careful down into these demands. You want to see it outside of this. If you can get a break under PDL on the NASDAQ, then maybe you can follow through on the downside move. But until then, these little volatile downside upside moves inside of this range are really quite pointless and could really smack you up today, right? Well above yesterday's lows still, just right in the center between yesterday's lows and that Thursday high. So deadlock center of the zone, right? This could easily just pop straight back up. There's just nothing stopping those type of short-term volatile candles, as you can see right now, right? Like this is the problem with trading in channels, right? If you just shorted that, it's instantly against you, just within 30 seconds. And that happens inside of these channels. So please be careful in here. Low volume, low liquidity, just volatile, aggressive actions. Be careful inside this zone. If you like a few individual setups, trust them, right? Like I'm probably going to trust Meta if it breaks 660 today. If Meta breaks under 660 and it rejects, I have to trust that. And I'll take a loss on it. If Google shows me a failure under the 309.40 gap fill level and it's perfectly rejecting, I'm going to have to trust that, right? But, I'll have to know that if the market's just super choppy, I might get faked out of it. So, yeah, that's the situation we're in, guys. Do your best to just capital preservation. We're going to get outside of this range. We're going to get outside of this choppy price action. It's going to happen. But practice on your, keep having the repetitions, but don't blow up your accounts. All right, that's it. If you got to take a few $100 losses, having some repetition in there, understanding that things are pretty sideways, that risk on is not quite here right now. I don't mind it, but don't be swinging for the fences. And just be smart. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed the live stream. If you did, make sure to press that like button. How are we doing on the likes? We got 1,000 likes. Appreciate that, guys. Press that like button. Subscribe to the channel. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace and love.